is All About Language, a series through the Early Years Project. In this video, we will be discussing fostering development. So as we've talked about in all of the other videos, the earliest years of a child's life and development is so crucial for really laying that foundation that they lay in order to learn throughout the rest of their life. We all continue to learn. So really those early years is the foundation. So at any age, how can we foster language development? First, we can talk about our daily routine. Model language through it all. So what this could look like is you go into their bedroom to get them up in the morning and you can say, "Oh, you just woke up. You need to get ready for the day." And you could be cooking in the kitchen and you could say, "Oh, I'm stirring the bowl. I need to pour this into the pan." You will feel ridiculous, but this is showing them and teaching them, "Oh, that's what pour looks like." Or, "Oh, wake up means that I'm getting out of bed. I'm awake now." And they start to put those connections together even earlier. We want to respond to their communication attempts as much as possible. We live in such a fast-paced world, and kids do ask a lot of questions and they can need you a lot. But we want to try our hardest to respond to all of their communication attempts. So if they are saying your name for the 1,000th time today, then stop, take a deep breath, but also try to respond to what they're saying. Give verbal and nonverbal communication models. So what does this look like? Showing them gestures while you're talking, showing them appropriate eye contact while you're interacting with them. We want to imitate what they're saying, but also build on it or repeat it back grammatically correct. So it can be so fun to kind of imitate their cute little things that they're saying, but we also want to model what they're supposed to be saying. From birth to 1 year, it is so important that a kid learns how to request. So that can either be requesting help, requesting a snack, requesting more, but they need to learn how to ask when they need something. It is so easy to kind of mind read with kids, especially if they're our own child. We know exactly what they want or exactly what they're thinking before they even say it, and we want to jump in and help. But let them learn. If they ask for fruit snacks, give them the package of fruit snacks, but don't open it. Let them try to do it, but then see how long it takes for them to be able to either hand it to you or ask for help. Or if they don't verbally ask for help, that's when we can model help in sign language, or we can model more if they want more of a certain snack. Another way that we can work on this is through what we call withholding. So if they request goldfish, give them one or two at a time. What kid wants one or two pieces of goldfish at a time? So they're definitely going to want more. But that's when we can really practice on them asking either more verbally or through sign language, like this sweet girl on this slide is modeling for us. She is signing more. After they get that one word, then we can add more please, more crackers, more bubbles, getting them to add two words together. But we really want to start with requesting one word. I want to pause here because Walkie Talkie Speech Therapy has a wonderful video on how to work on requesting, but she also has amazing free resources online. She has a YouTube page, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. So her name is Walkie Talkie Speech Therapy on all social media platforms. She has great free resources, not only going through activities on how to work on speech with your child, speech and language skills, but also um, a great course for parents and caregivers on how to work on speech at home. And she has great informational resources for educators as well. Not only does she share how speech pathologists work on these things, because she is a speech pathologist, but she's also teaching you the why behind it. Looking at language development from 2 to 3 years. So, like I mentioned in the birth to 1 year, we're working on requesting. So, now around the age of 2 years is when we want to see a child start combining two words together. So, what that looks like is, like I said, they are requesting more. So, now we want to start expanding on what they're saying. So, they're either saying more, please. Okay, that's a great request, but let's make it even longer. What can they tolerate? What can they repeat back to us? What can we model for them? We don't even have to have them repeat it, but we could say, more goldfish, please. If they say, go outside, then we can say, oh, let's go outside. So adding more words to make it a complete phrase or sentence. Add new words. So let's say you do go outside. You can say, oh, it's bright. The sun is bright. It's warm out today. The grass is green. So you're including new words like warm, bright, green, words like that they may have heard before, but now we're teaching them. They're learning, oh, this is what warm feels like. This is what bright looks like. Connect to new and familiar connect the new to familiar concepts. So, oh, do you remember the other day when we came outside? It wasn't this bright. It was cloudy. We couldn't see the sun. So, connecting to things that they've experienced before. And again, like I already mentioned, describing, naming, and providing more information as much as possible. A speech pathologist who does early intervention really recommended movement while we were collecting ideas and different things to share in this presentation. And she said that movement really does include all of the senses, and it makes it more meaningful for kids when they're running and laughing and having a great time. They also remember that with all of the things that they were learning that they didn't realize they were learning. So what does that mean? So if we think about tickling, chasing, playing hide and seek, we can work on concepts like more. So if you're tickling them, stop and see if they'll request more. If they don't, that's when we model, oh, do you want more? And see if they'll repeat more. Then continue to tickle them. We can work on closing or close eyes. We're working on that action, but then we're also working on body parts. They're learning what eyes are. With hide and seek, we're working on under, on, where did you go? Asking questions, answering questions. Another way that we can work on these concepts is through a home roller coaster. So as we can see in the second picture on the kind of towards the right, we have a little child sitting in a laundry basket. So if you don't want to use a laundry basket and scratch up your floors, completely understandable, but you can also either pull or push them around on a blanket or a towel, and we can work on ready, set, and have them fill and go. Eventually we back off and we say ready, let them finish, set, go. We can work on fast, slow, more, stop, go, turn, straight, all of those concepts. And we can work on all of these concepts too through a home obstacle course. So you have to go under the table, then over the pillows. We're also working on multiple step directions and seeing how much they can remember at once. From 4 to 6 years, this is really when kids are asking questions constantly. And they're doing this to learn about their environment. So when they're asking us those questions, don't be afraid to ask them questions. So you walk in and they're sitting at the table coloring or sitting on the floor coloring, and you say, "Oh, what are you doing?" And they don't tell you. Well, if they don't tell you, then give them two options. Are you dancing or are you coloring? And see if they can tell you that way. If they still can't tell you, then you can say, "Oh, you're coloring. You're sitting on the floor and coloring." That's language modeling. So, again, if they don't know the answer, model the answer. So, we've kind of been talking about language modeling this whole time, but language modeling is using complete speech and language to encourage a child's language to grow. So, we're really just exposing them. We're showing them, letting them hear and see and learn what complete sentences look like and sound like. So now we'll kind of get into some videos. All of these have been approved and recommended that we share by the individuals that have posted them. They share great ideas and great resources and ways to work on language modeling. But the first way that we can work on this is through a language rich environment. So, what is a language rich environment? A language rich environment gives a child the opportunity to talk, sing, and read through all kinds of interactions, through all kinds of activities. So, research has found that there's usually a language gap between the kind of language environment that they get at school and what they're exposed to at home. So, this is really important for both educators and caregivers to keep in mind that, we might not be giving them or modeling the same kind of language, but also remember that the more that we can give them in both environments, the more that they're going to learn. The sturdier their foundation is going to be as they continue to grow. So, what does that look like? That a language rich environment can look like engaging them in more conversations, getting on their level, taking turns, asking them about what they're doing, what they're looking at, what they're interested in, facilitating thick conversations. So, really, that's using those descriptive words, using colors, textures, sizes. Oh, that's a big yellow ball. Oh, that's a small red ball. So, labeling those things for them and then asking, which one is this? Or if they can't tell you, they don't have the language to tell you, see if they'll point to which one. So, which one's the big yellow ball? And seeing if they'll do that. And if they don't, that's again when we model, we point to oh, this is the big yellow ball. We want to add on to what they're saying, forming their productions and what they say into complete sentences. So, this is another tip if a child does have limited language and they do seem to get really frustrated, give them two choices while holding out your hands. So, this gradually and significantly will increase their expressive language skills, but it immediately reduces the frustration in the moment. So, this is helpful for a lot of kids, not all, but say you're at home and you're making dinner and they are frustrated because they don't want to eat what you made. So, you're tired, you're frustrated, you spent all of this time making dinner and they don't want to eat what you made for your family. So, what do? They can't tell you what they want, but you know that they like mac and cheese and they like chicken nuggets. So you can hold out one hand and say, do you want mac and cheese? Or do you want, put your other hand out and say, chicken nuggets? So you ask them while holding out your hands for each option, do you want mac and cheese or do you want chicken nuggets? So that's at home. At school, you don't know what they want. You could say, do you want a break or do you want to color and see if either of those options will reduce frustration.
Rich environment is playing and talking in fun ways to help others learn how to use language better. So why is a language-rich environment important for kids with special needs? Well, it can help them better their vocabulary, improve their communication skills, and just get used to interacting with others. So how can you create a language-rich environment at home for your child? Well, what you can do is actually include games and bedtime stories into their routine and make sure that they're really understanding what you're saying and make sure to keep it light and fun. So how do educators and therapists use the language-rich environment to teach children? Well, you'll usually see them playing games, reading poems or books, singing songs, everything, just to keep them engaged. Do you notice your child nodding off when you're trying to teach them something important? Maybe you should try creating a language-rich environment for them so that they can stay engaged and learn better.
Did that help you understand
A language-rich environment.
An important part of language development is creating a language-rich environment at home. I don't know how to do that as well as she does. Vicki, you're a speech language pathologist.
Yes, I am.
You've been in practice for what, 2 decades now?
Something like that, yeah.
And you know a lot more about this than I do. So help us out. How do we create a language-rich environment at home?
Well, there are several things that we can do, and one of the very first ones that I would say is read out loud to your child every single day. Read out loud. It is so important. So there's a couple of things that you're going to be doing within that reading out loud. Now I'm talking, you don't have to wait until they're talking to read out loud. Start from the very, very first. We got a picture the other day of our son. He had his 2-month-old daughter on his lap and he was reading. Read from the very, very start. As they get older, you can do a lot of fun things with that reading. You can do predictive reading. What do you think is going to happen next? Should we turn the page and see? You do some predictions. You do some, you can look at emotions. Look at that. He's getting so mad. Why do you think he's mad? And you can go through the thoughts that are going through his head. You can, another thing that's even great, you have a chance to even talk about the front cover and look, here's the title and this is who drew it. Wouldn't it be fun to draw? How would you have drawn this book? What could you have done differently?
I have a question, Vicki.
Yeah.
As you're talking about this, I'm seeing that this obviously enhances a child's ability to gain literacy, the
Oh,
ability
yeah.
to read. But we're talking also about language development. Can you connect the dots there for us?
There is a big tie between language and literacy. Within literacy, especially in books, there's a lot of rhyming and alliteration, and that
Oh, yeah.
has a big influence on how we learn to read. So when you're talking with a child, maybe you're reading a story with them, and you start doing some word play, you do some rhyming, cat, sat, mat, and they start to hear word chunks like that at, that is a literacy building skill. Because
Right.
when they're learning to read, they learn to just change that first letter, and they have, I guess in the video it'd be first letter and the chunk right here. So you're going to have that learning of literacy that goes with it. It's so important to do word play. So we want to do things like the rhyming, but also the alliteration. So Pat has a pickle and is sitting on a pillow. You might, while you're driving in the car, you're going to just play games. Let's see all the things, look out the window and see all the things that have pa, pa, pa in it. Let's go. And
Now,
that
you
is-
used a sound rather than a letter.
Yeah, in case you haven't noticed, in English you can spell sh a whole lot of ways. T-I-S-H-C-C-H-S. So
Oh,
you don't,
yeah,
you're not worried
right.
about the letters of the alphabet. You're talking about the sounds. You're trying to bring the awareness to actually the building blocks of speech and literacy. And that will
Right.
help in both the language and the literacy.
When you mentioned the wordplay, the alliteration, the rhyming, this psychologically also triggers predictive speech and language because they can anticipate, okay, there's going to be a word here that rhymes with the one that was just said.
Right.
And then they begin to predict and anticipate, which is an important part of language development as well.
And that's actually even one of the ways you can do reading. A book that you've read more than once, and please read them over and over and over again.
Repetition.
I know you've probably
Absolutely.
read, You know, what is the one that we used to?
The Golden Bear.
Golden Bear.
Go, Dog, Go.
65 times.
Dr.
But then
Seuss, everything
just
he ever wrote.
Pause for a second and let them finish the word. And that's a really great literacy skill as well as language development skill.
Our granddaughter can pretty much recite entire books now.
Yeah.
Even though she doesn't have the reading skills yet, she can recite the book because of the repetition that
Right.
she's had. And it gives her a sense of confidence as she's going through that book and telling you what it says. So that is another reason we want to do the repetition. It increases the confidence and their sense of self
Right.
because they're able to do that.
This brings me to something that a lot of parents aren't as familiar with. It's something called narration of your activities, okay? Of your activity or the child. So while you're playing, this is of course more common with a
Oh,
really
yeah.
young child who's just developing speech. Something a lot of parents don't know, you've got to have about 50 words before you start to put them together to make phrases. So you got to have bottle, ball, up, daddy, mommy. Got to have about 50 of those before you're going to say, daddy, bye-bye, daddy, work, mommy, help, you know, put two together. And so while you're playing with your child or doing whatever you're doing, even while you're cooking dinner, you can be narrating, mommy's pouring this tomato sauce in, I'm gonna stir, going round and round. It seems really silly, but you're narrating. But you do that with your
Yeah.
child. Here goes the car, going up, 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 here it goes, down. And you're narrating what you're doing. Now,
This ties the language to what the child is experiencing in the moment.
and it's the words that are most likely for them to develop first because they're the words that you're seeing and experiencing in your day-to-day activity.
Right.
Now, I want you to notice that while I was talking about it, about my actions and narrating, I did not use baby talk. I used real adult speech. But I did use something called parent ease. So
There's a difference.
There's a big difference. Baby talk is when, what do we want to do? And you change the way you say it. You maybe change the way you do your sounds.
Mispronounce it.
Mispronounce on purpose or use improper grammar to
That's
be like
baby
a baby.
talk.
That's baby talk. That is not helpful. Parent ease, I may shorten my sentences. I may give a little bit more time
You become
between
much
things,
more
go a little bit
animated.
slower, and stress words. You can say, when you're trying to teach a new vocabulary word, so say I'm working on up, you might say that 17 times in a 2-minute play session, and that's not too much. So you're going
Right.
to use parent ease, which is simplified a little bit, shorter, slower, more
Right.
emphasized. But you're still going to talk like an adult. Use adult speech to them. That brings us into one of the last techniques I wanted to highlight, and that is talk to your child.
Talk to them.
One-on-one. There is so much research. I wish I had the exact numbers, but the number of words that a child hears before they really develop their own vocabulary is this really huge number. They have to hear those words. But the research also shows that it can't be overheard words. So you and I are having a discussion and the child is on the floor. Those are overheard words. Those don't
Because
play.
we're not talking to the child
We're not
at
talking
that
to
point.
them. And so the number of words that the child actually hears spoken to them directly is associated with their vocabulary later in life.
Their language development
Their
is
language
tied to that.
development and their vocabulary.
Good
And
to
so
know.
that is super huge to remember. Another thing that surprised me when I was first doing my schooling is the majority of our language, understanding of how language works, like the grammar and things like that,
How it's all
are learned
structured.
by the time we're 5. The rest of it, almost all
Right.
of it, is actually vocabulary enhancement. So if you want your child to have a bigger
Wow.
vocabulary, which really helps with so many areas, especially in school and in professions, talk with your child. They need to hear more words. So talk to them one-on-one as often as you can.
A language-enriched environment is not only predictive of enhanced communication skills, but it's also tied to psychological adaptation, their ability to socially connect with people.
Yes.
They even predict the need for prison beds based on literacy rates.
They
So
do.
we got to take this very seriously, and Vicki, you've given us some great pointers. Isn't she brilliant? That's why I brought her on board. I hope that this has been helpful to you, and we are honored to be on your team. Please join us at parentingpowerup.com, where we're forming a community of conscious, positive parents like you. parentingpowerup.com.
So thank you to Goalie app and Living on Purpose TV for your amazing videos and your consent to allow us to show them in this presentation. So that concludes our presentation on fostering language development. This project is in collaboration with the Illinois EDDI, as well as Illinois Hands and Voices Guide by Your Side. We invite you to get out your smartphone and scan the QR codes. The left is for parents and caregivers, and the one on the right is for early childhood educators or any kind of service provider. Thank you.